By 26 CE, Tiberius, known as Imperator Tiberius Caesar Divi Augusti Filius Augustus, abandoned the palaces of Rome and retreated to the island of Capri, a rocky outcrop in the Bay of Naples. Nearly impossible to invade and favoured for its steep cliffs and natural grottos, Capri had long been a strategic lookout. But under Tiberius, it became something else entirely. A hidden seat of imperial control far from the Senate, the plebs, and the gossiping elite of Rome. According to Suetonius in the 12 Caesars, Tiberius chose Capri in part for its isolation and its geography. The island's dramatic terrain allowed for unparalleled privacy. 12 villas were constructed across the island, the most notorious being the Villa Jovis, perched atop the eastern cliffs, nearly 1,200 feet above sea level. Surrounded on three sides by sheer drop-offs into the sea, Villa Jovis was a palace fortress, an architectural embodiment of Tiberius's increasingly reclusive rule. He did not merely retreat, he ruled from afar. Tiberius maintained imperial correspondence, issued decrees, and gave orders to the Senate from Capri. Visitors were screened carefully, and access to the emperor was tightly controlled by Lucius Aelius Sejanus, commander of the Praetorian Guard. Suetonius records that no one could speak to Tiberius without permission, not even the highest magistrates. Sejanus, meanwhile, used the emperor's physical absence to consolidate power in Rome, a factor that would lead to catastrophic consequences. But Capri offered more than strategic benefit. It was also a place where scrutiny diminished and secrecy flourished. Tiberius's move isolated him not only politically, but morally. Beyond the jurisdiction of the Senate, protected by cliffs and Praetorian guards, the emperor could indulge impulses unchecked by law, tradition, or shame. Capri was no refuge, it was transformation. And the consequences for those brought to the island, especially enslaved children, would be unimaginable. Banished to Capri, the children who never returned. According to the Suetonius, on the island of Capri, far from the eyes of Rome, Emperor Tiberius gathered a human court of unspeakable design. A retinue of boys and girls, many still in their childhood, selected for their beauty, their youth, and above all, their helplessness. In the life of Tiberius, Suetonius paints a lurid picture of the emperor's retreat to Capri, alleging he surrounded himself with so-called pisciculi, little fish, a term he uses for young attendants trained to entertain him. These claims, vivid and disturbing, appear only in Suetonius, whose biographies often blur the line between fact and moralistic gossip. While other Roman sources like Tacitus confirm Tiberius's secluded and paranoid retreat to Capri fostered rumors of depravity, they lack these specifics. These children may have come from across the empire. Some could have been enslaved through conquest or sale, potentially taken from provinces such as Syria, Gaul, or the Greek East, regions known in Roman culture for producing what the elite regarded as delicate or refined features. Roman slave markets are known to have frequently dealt in young boys and girls, described in inventories with unsettling precision. Age, skin tone, eye color, and gratia corporis, or grace of the body. Others may not have been enslaved, at least not legally. These could have included liberty or children of freedmen, potentially handed over as tokens of loyalty or offered in hope of imperial favor. Roman society, particularly in the imperial period, allowed grotesque flexibility in the treatment of the powerless. Legality meant little on Capri. In such a scenario, once brought to the island, no child, slave, or freeborn may have retained the protection of law or lineage. Transport arrangements were likely handled with considerable discretion. It is plausible that vessels from the Classis Missinensis, the Roman fleet based at Misenum, were occasionally utilized for discreet imperial errands between the mainland and Capri. The children may have been moved aboard well-appointed ships under a carefully constructed guise, perhaps as young attendants, musicians for the imperial household, or companions for other members of the court. Such terminology within the imperial circle could easily serve to obscure their true purpose. Upon their arrival on the island, they were probably housed in dedicated quarters among the emperor's sprawling villa complex. There, they would have received instruction not just in performance arts, but more critically in the strict codes of silence, absolute obedience, and the specific behaviors demanded by their unique station. To Tiberius, Capri was a sanctuary, but to these children it was a prison without escape, where identity vanished and the sea swallowed every trace. The Emperor's Games, cruelty disguised as entertainment. In the life of Tiberius, Suetonius recounts troubling accusations against the emperor, suggesting that he orchestrated performances involving children in ways that blurred the line between ritual and cruelty. These young boys and girls, mockingly referred to by a term associated with provocative performers in Roman law, were reportedly assigned symbolic roles in imperial spectacles. According to the sources, they were not celebrated as individuals, but reduced to instruments of display, their roles shaped by the emperor's command. Archaeological sites linked to Tiberius add a chilling backdrop. At Spelonga, a coastal villa south of Rome, the Grotto of Tiberius reveals how imperial retreats combined enjoyment with theatre. Inside its vast natural cavern, marble sculptures, crafted by Rhodian artists, depict scenes from Homer's Odyssey, including the blinding of Polyphemus and the theft of the Palladium. These mythological tableaus served more than decoration. They set the stage for banquets and performances in which guests dined before colossal figures of violence and survival. The grotto's water features and hidden alcoves hint at spaces engineered for both spectacle and secrecy. While no inscription ties children directly to Spelonga, the site exemplifies how Tiberius used enclosed, theatrical environments to heighten the drama of his entertainments. Capri's coastline, dotted with sea caves and villas, amplified Tiberius's reputation for secrecy and excess. The Blue Grotto, Grotta Azzurra, though not definitively tied to him, fits the island's aura of myth and isolation. Statues of sea gods, Neptune, Tritons and Nereids found nearby suggest spaces where imperial power merged with theatrical ritual. Suetonius claims Tiberius staged disturbing games in his cliffside palaces. Whether these occurred in grottos remains uncertain, but the island's natural drama certainly enhanced his legend. The children were trained like performers, expected to dance, sing, or mimic mythical scenes. Yet beneath the guise of art, the reality was humiliation. Capri's isolation concealed these spectacles from public scrutiny. But the villas, the grottos, and the surviving sculptures still testify to the emperor's taste for turning myth into living theatre, where the powerless, especially children, were reduced to actors in a performance that only one man could direct. Executions in the shadows, punishment beneath the villa. Ancient writers describe how Tiberius kept strict control over his secluded world. According to Tacitus in the Annals, those accused of treason or disobedience under Tiberius often met their end without trial, dispatched in secrecy. Capri, with its sheer precipices and isolation, provided the perfect stage. Suetonius recounts a grim image. Condemned individuals hurled from the cliffs of Villa Jovis into the sea below, their bodies broken on the rocks and lost to the waves. Soldiers were stationed at the base to ensure no one survived. This practice became so notorious that locals referred to the spot as the Tiberian Leap. For the children and attendants confined on Capri, the threat of punishment was ever present. Failure to obey, resistance, or even the loss of imperial favor could result in disappearance. While Suetonius's accounts must be read with awareness of senatorial hostility, the consistency of reports suggests that violence was an integrated part of life on the island. Punishment was not limited to execution. Tacitus records that those accused of dishonoring the emperor might be whipped or mutilated before being killed, practices consistent with Roman law for servi, enslaved persons. Enslaved attendants who revealed secrets risked immediate death. Those who were suspected of betrayal faced torture. Even freeborn individuals were not protected. Charges of maestas, treason against the emperor's dignity, were expanded during Tiberius's reign, allowing him to condemn senators, knights and commoners alike, sometimes with little evidence. Capri thus became a microcosm of imperial Rome's darker realities. The grandeur of its villas concealed an underworld where obedience was absolute and mercy was absent. The same cliffs that offered the emperor sweeping views of the Tyrrhenian Sea also served as the empire's most secret gallows. For those who served Tiberius on Capri, life and death balanced on the emperor's will. Beauty, loyalty or innocence could bring favor, but a single mistake could end with a silent fall into the sea, erased without trace. Another life lost beneath the shadow of the villa. Capri exposes how absolute power can warp an empire and break innocent lives. Tiberius turned an island paradise into a theater of secrecy where beauty, fear and death blurred. The echoes of that rule remind us that unchecked authority still threatens the vulnerable today. Which modern refuge of power might hide similar shadows? Comment below with your thoughts. A party of marines were stationed below, Suetonius wrote, and when the bodies came hurtling down, they struck at them with oars and boat hooks to ensure that they did not survive.